Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, it's March 5th, 2019. There's snowstorms going on outside, and this is another oddball video because this is actually an application for a scholarship opportunity for a master class in market gardening. As many of you know, we've been doing lots of gardening and small-scale farming here for years, and we're also into permaculture. So the rest of this video is going to be basically an application and stating some goals, telling a little bit about ourselves for Jean-Martin or his associates to review. First, I'll start off by saying Jean-Martin and Elliot Coleman have been inspirations and sources of information with techniques and tools that have allowed us to do many of the things that we're able to do so successfully here on site thus far. And Jean-Martin Fortier is also the author of The Market Gardener, and that's an absolutely excellent resource. So this scholarship is an international scholarship, so people from all over the world will have the opportunity to apply for this, and the Masterclass takes into account all aspects of farming on a small scale that's ecologically minded, that's resilient, and that's going to help meet the needs of the local communities wherever you are. So all that appeals to me tremendously. So who are we? Well, I'm watching cats run around just outside the door. My name is Kevin Wallace. My wife's name is Thea Wallace. I'm retired. Thea is still working. She's got about 4 more years of working before she retires. And we live on just less than a 40-acre parcel of land. The parcel of land is at about 405 to 450 foot elevation, and it is all gravel, very, very coarse gravel, the soil is, and it's been over 100 years ago it was farmed, and I've lived on the property since the mid-70s, and Thea and I have lived together since the early 80s on the property. And we've gradually developed, cleared land and developed many of the features that you see on our property over the many years. Currently, we live in a passive solar home. We produce more electricity through our photovoltaic systems than we consume. We have several buildings, including a sugar shack and barns that are being converted into an educational facility and workshops. I've started a greenhouse that's 69 foot by 32 foot passive solar with a large thermal mass underground. The glass part and aluminum part hasn't been put up yet. Well, it was glass and aluminum originally. It won't be glass anymore. And it's attached to a work area, and the work area is attached to a small chicken coop as well, and duck coop. Let me see, what else? So on our property we have 7 ponds, canal systems, bioremediation system to deal with contaminants, environmental contaminants and waste products from the region around us. We have a soil reclamation canal system, so as sediment goes into the canal systems, we can harvest that as well. We do our own composting here to create soil on top of a gravel surface. We have 30-inch permanent raised beds, as Jean-Martin has described in Elliot Coleman. And we use many of the techniques from using tarps for occulation, to plastics for solarization, using broad fork to do minimum disruption of the soil but allow nutrients and air to get down into the depths of the soil. We do minimum till with the BCS, walk behind tractor with a power harrow. All these tools have been very, very helpful in allowing us to grow and be more efficient at growing the crops that we're growing. And we do grow just about everything. As I may have mentioned, we also are into permaculture, so we have a couple of food forests and various nut trees and fruit trees as well. And a big part of our whole diverse system that we have is integrating all of the ecosystems where we're creating habitats for fish, amphibians, reptiles, small mammals, and birds as well. All of these habitats, we really want to make sure that there's from each zone of the habitat having marginal zones that create housing for the native species that live in this area. So that's a little bit of an idea of some of the things that we do here. We live in Oswego, New York, which is in the United States. We're just 8 miles from Lake Ontario, which is just south of the border of Canada. It's one of the Great Lakes. We happen to be in a very cold temperate climate with lots of overcast, so we really get about 2.5 seasons of growth each year. We've really become very efficient at sowing, growing, and harvesting many of the foods that sustain us. We produce just about all the foods that we eat here, aside from some of the nuts and some our coffees and things like that. But we're pretty resilient as far as our practices. Our goals ultimately are, well, my personal goal is always to every day, every week, every month, every year to be reflecting back and seeing how I can improve myself, how I can create the next best version of myself. And that's reflected in each of the things that we do here on site. Whether it's a building, I always want to make that building as beneficial and enhancing and environmentally friendly. And our ethics are basically self-care, earth care, people care, and future care, which I believe are very much in alignment with the ecological sustainable method that Jean-Martin Fortier talks about. So we're a blend of permaculture skills and the market gardening techniques. I haven't developed the skills at actually selling the products yet. That's one of the things I hope to be able to do. And I can use the excuse that it takes me so much time to do the work, all the physical work that we're doing here, from the construction projects to doing all the work in the beds. But I've got to say, through many of the techniques that we've learned through your work and Elliot Coleman's work, the amount of time I spend weeding is minimal. The amount of time that I spend doing watering and that sort of thing, it's so efficient. The techniques that we've learned so far are just amazing to me. We can grow so much food and all. Harvesting gets to be too much for us because we grow so much food and we don't have, as you know, it takes a lot of time to plan the harvesting and to set those and to process them appropriately. And so there is some waste on our end. We really need to improve on that. And we need to establish a way of actually doing the marketing as well, so that we can start that process of being true market gardeners. So I think that's about all that I wanted to say. I really do appreciate all the work that you've done with your videos and your book, and Diego Footer did a great job doing the narration for the audiobook, The Market Gardener. I appreciate that. I'm super excited to see your videos with the large project that you're working on now, upscaling the small market gardener to a larger scale system, and seeing the integration of using some of the techniques that permaculture uses as well. So thank you so much for providing this opportunity. If we don't get it, that's just fine. I'm super stoked to just participate with learning what we can along the way. So I thank you so much for this opportunity, and I hope you have a super fantastic day. For all the rest of you folks, thanks for bearing with this video and all. It gives you a little bit more insight of who we are, I guess, and what we're doing here, along with the other videos that you've been seeing that we put up regularly. I know a lot of them are pretty boring right now with doing the work in the workshop, but time will tell. We'll get things done eventually and all. Well, I thank you so much for watching, folks. Have a super fantastic day. Take care now. Bye-bye.